Hello everybody, I'm Roxy and this is Shrek My BS. Well, I'm still working on editing my England book hauls, which were supposed to be up like in April. I bring you my August, yes, highlights. I'm going to try and get through this quick because I don't have much memory left because I was just recording for my other channel, like here. But I'm going to try. Okay, so August was a really good month for me. I read quite a lot, not so much at the beginning, but after like the 20th, it really picked up for me and I got quite some reading done. Okay, so first it's a 5-star book, The Old Nurse's Story by Elizabeth Gaskell. This was my first Elizabeth Gaskell. This is a Penguin Black Classic number 39. I do want to read her longer novels, I just haven't got around to it yet. This is 2 gothic tales. One is more like about ghosts and the second is about fairy tales. It's genius, so atmospheric. I'm not easily scared, but I was honestly kind of like freaked out after I read the first one, and it was night and I just had to turn on every single light. Really, she's got a great narrative voice. 5 stars for Elizabeth Gaskell. Then another superb book I read was The Faster I Walk, The Smaller I Am, but I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. This is a great short, beautiful, eerie book about a woman with social anxiety and personal anxiety too. She starts to realize she hasn't accomplished anything and she wants to, but at the same time she doesn't know how because she's always so afraid. This is dark and funny in the worst way possible, but again, the best at the same time. It's just so painful, but at the same time so great. The only thing I will say though, that sometimes the plot gets a bit repetitive for such a short book, but it was great. I really recommend it. Then I read this great poetry collection. It's a poetry collection, Captivity by Toy Cotte. This has like 100 or so reviews on Goodreads. It's really a not well-known book and I actually got it from my college library. This is so great. It's a really strong, solid collection dealing with race and gender and abuse and family relationships and motherhood, and it's just so great. Just speaking about the themes, it reminds me about what I used to hear about Milk and Honey. I read that at the beginning of the year, and if you remember, I hated that book. I thought it was so bad poetry-wise. The drawings were neat, but no. So if you like that, or you didn't, but you want to check out something that deals with similar themes but has actual great poetry in it, read this one. I gave it 4 out of 5. Especially the second half, is every single poem was like, whoa, so powerful. Really love this. I wish it were more popular. Then I want to introduce you to the Oxford Bookworm collection. So this is a book that a professor of mine gave me back at my old college, and it's a book focused for schools and second language learning. So it has like questions at the end and glossaries and like discussion points. And what I hate about these books is that the stories within are usually abridged. This was not the case, so this is why I like this collection so much. You can definitely ignore the discussion points if you don't want them, but you can use them in your class. The stories are really famous or by really famous authors, sometimes like lesser known stories by, and they are all connected through a thread. So in this case, with a tangled web was deception. They have like travel and love, and they have really catchy titles. The authors appear here, and this one has Ray Bradbury, Roald Dahl, Maeve Binchy, Knight Powell, Somerset Maugham, Oscar Wilde, etc. So it's really great. I really love this. Most of the stories I loved. There was just one that I didn't like, which was by Jonah Trollope. So I think this is a great ratio. I gave this 4 out of 5. I just think it's a great, superb idea, and I will purchase more in this series. Then I read Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. I had read only his non-fiction, some of it, as I don't get tired of repeating, but now I cannot say anymore. So this is a story of college student Watanabe, who's really just an average, really good person that draws a lot of mentally unstable people towards him. That sounds funnier than it actually is. It's actually quite sad in many ways. This is a very nostalgic book. They say it's Murakami's most normal book in terms of like magical realism. I wouldn't know. This is fairly realistic. I really enjoy this. The characters are great. Also the way it sort of deals with suicide, but from an outsider's perspective, it's really interesting. What I will say though is that the plot thins a bit in the middle, especially in the beginning and the middle. It's kind of because it's just 1 year and it's not a lengthy book, but it's long for a year in the life of. So sometimes the plot wasn't sustained that well. However, I did really love this and I will take more coming out. Then I finished by Michael Erard. Finally, this was a pain to get through at times, but it was ultimately super interesting. This is a non-fiction book about slips, stumbles and verbal blunders and what they mean. But I think that's a bit misleading. This is pop linguistics, but the linguistics aspect is secondary to the historical and cultural aspect of slip. So I think what actually the New York Times book review says about it is more accurate. An enjoyable tour of linguistic mishaps. Rewarding, it reveals the dynamic nature of the human mind. I did give it 3 out of 5 because I do think the research put into this is huge, but it did lack focus and direction and it was really disorganized. So I wished it had been packed a bit differently, edited a bit differently. But this is still interesting, and if you are interested in slips and why they occur, this is a good way to start, definitely. It's very user-friendly and plus the print is really large, so I think it will pique your interest. And that's it. That was all I wanted to talk to you about. Of course, those are not all the books I read because this is the highlights video. So if you want to check out everything that I read, you can go to my Goodreads page, which I'll link down below. I have like 5 minutes left on my memory card. Let's get on with this. So this is my TBR. First, a book that I'm bringing back from my Winter Wonderland TBR that I didn't get to, and this is Inventing Ireland by Declan Kibert. This is a Spanish version though, so I don't know how the English version looks like. This is a collection of essays of a sort, but it's a book. It's constructed like a book about how Irish identity is constructed through its literature regarding its socio-political status. It's super interesting. It is quite dense, but it's written in a way that's fascinating. It clarifies the things that need to be clarified, although it does assume some pre-existing knowledge, so bear that in mind. Then I'm also reading Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf, and you will definitely hear me rave about this at the end of the month. I also want to pick up The Hours by Michael Cunningham after Mrs. Dalloway. It's not a retelling, but it's like it plays a lot on Mrs. Dalloway because it talks about Virginia Woolf. It also talks about a woman that gets called Mrs. Dalloway because she plans a lot of parties, I've gathered. I haven't read it yet. It's supposed to be brilliant and I've always wanted to read them side by side or one after the other, so I am going to pick this up after I'm done with Mrs. Dalloway. Then I also want to read A Streetcar Named Desire by Tennessee Williams. It says, fading southern belle Blanche Dubois depends on the kindness of strangers and is adrift in the modern world. So it sounds great and dramatic and I'm looking forward to it. I also want to read the first book in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I have all 4 books of the trilogy because it says a trilogy of 4. So I will eventually get through this, but for now I'm only going to read the first one. Finally, I have 2 books. The Secret Scripture by Sebastian Barry. I want to check out his new book, but this is about a woman who's in a mental asylum and she's been lying her ass off apparently, and it's quite shocking, as I've gathered. Again, I haven't read it yet. It sounds fascinating and it's quite short, so I'm hoping to get to this. If I love this, I will purchase his new book, I promise. Finally, I've been getting through Alice Smith's Public Library and Other Stories. This is a collection of Alice Smith's short stories. Alice Smith is amazing. She's like very inventive with language. She's very creative, but she's also very now. I've read like 3, but they have been all amazing, so yeah, I will definitely start picking up more Alice Smith. And that's all. I'm not going to do a super long music segment because this is already long enough. However, I do want to recommend Marble Sounds to you, especially because I think you're entering into autumn. We're entering spring, so I think that's how hemisphere works. And Marble Sounds, it's my go-to autumn listen. We're hearing them right now and it's just amazing. They are this super relaxing but intense and soulful band that I just love. And that's it. I hope you like this video. I'm just about to be cut. See you next time. Thanks. I managed it. Oh my. Here's this comes vault. I tried. Then I want to introduce you to the Penguin. I had read only his nonfiction as I tirelessly Che pachor. My dog woke up. Anda a acostarte. Anda a acostarte. Anda a acostarte.